Hey there everybody, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Apuborama, and in today's video, I will be breaking into the 10 fastest vehicles in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. I've done videos like this in the past, but mainly I focused on ground vehicles like cars and motorcycles, but today we are focusing on all of the fastest things that you can get your hands on. And I'm going to let you know now, every single one through the top 10 is a flying vehicle. So, without further ado, let's get into the number 10 slot, which is this, the Seabreeze. You would not think the Seabreeze is one of the fastest things in the game, but surprisingly, it can fly at a crazy good top speed of 192 miles per hour, making it actually a great purchase if you want to traverse across the map pretty quick. It does feature a front-mounted machine gun, but I'll be honest, it really doesn't do all that much damage. It's not like a Gatling gun, it doesn't have any explosions, so yeah, it's a pretty mediocre weapon. You can't mount any missiles on it, but what you can do is put bombs on this vehicle, so at least you can like try and bomb people on the ground, which is kind of cool, I guess. Overall, the Seabreeze in terms of weaponry really isn't going to be anything insane. But there is one special feature about this plane that I personally think is freaking epic, and that is the fact it's basically a boat, but you can crash it into the water at full speed. Watch this. Hooah! I mean, it literally does nothing to the plane, and then you can just bump right back out of the water and start flying again. It does make completing some missions really, really fun. There's one thing I did want to test before we get out of this plane, and that is if we jump out of it and we let it crash into the ocean, will it be completely fine? I think it will be. Let's see, let's see. It's perfectly flying, and yeah, no real issues, just kind of plopped into the water. I mean, it's upside down, but it still works fine. So, I guess if you are flying the Seabreeze and you want to get rid of it, make sure you don't jump out over an ocean, or it's just going to land in the water. In the number 9 position, we have a jet that everybody knows. This is the P996 Laser. It reaches a top speed of 195 miles per hour. The biggest problem with this jet is that if you want to buy it, it's going to cost you quite a pretty penny. In fact, it is one of the most expensive purchases in the game at 6.5 million buckaroonies. It gets even worse because there are no upgrades for this jet when you buy it. All you can do is change the color and store it as your own vehicle. But apart from that, yeah, it's pretty dang sad. The nice things about the Laser is that it flies really well. It's one of the most comfortable flying jets in the game. It also features an explosive machine gun, which you saw we just annihilated some poor family with. It has missiles as well, which means that if you are trying to deal with anybody on the ground, you can. So it does have its fair share of weaponry. The problem is it doesn't have any real special abilities, and as I said, you can't upgrade it. This is by far the worst purchase out of the vehicles in today's video, because it's not even that fast compared to the other 8 we're going to be talking about. Say goodbye to the Laser, because we're moving on to the P45 Nakoda. This vehicle, it looks awesome. I mean, it looks absolutely awesome. And that's obviously because it's based off of a World War II plane. I'm a big fan of World War II, and I'm a big fan of planes. So when you combine them together, this thing is absolutely epic. And it flies at a top speed of 201 miles per hour. This is the first vehicle to break that 200 mile per hour barrier. It's pretty fast, and it does have some decent capabilities going for it. Unfortunately, it does not feature an explosive machine gun. If it did, I'd actually say this is a great plane, but because it doesn't, yeah, it's a little disappointing. You've just got 2 wing-mounted guns, which really don't do much. You're not going to be taking anybody out with them. It does feature missiles, which is pretty nice, and these are spammable missiles as well. You'll also notice, which is really cool, you can see how each side of the plane has 3 rocket pods, and it shoots 1, 2, 3 out of the left wing, and then it shoots 3 out of the right wing, which is honestly epic. I think that's so cool. So it does have the ability to spam missiles, which is pretty nice. It also has flares. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this is an awful plane, but it's very expensive, and there are definitely better options, which you will be seeing as we make our way higher through the list. But in terms of looks, yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of the coolest looking planes in the game. I would definitely say if you're a big history buff, this is one of the planes to get your hands on. We arrive at our first stunt plane in the number 7 position, being the Alpha Z1. This plane is ridiculously maneuverable, as you can see. It is crazy fast for doing wheelies, and, well, oh, we're not dead yet. I don't know how we're not dead. Either way, yeah, you can do things like that with this plane, which is kind of insane. It's almost too good on its handling, though. Can we fit through here? Oh, yes, we can. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how easy this plane is to fly. It's very fun to mess around with, and because of that, it's actually a pretty good pickup. The only problem is it has no weapons. Thankfully, Rockstar did equip flares, so at least you can get yourself out of a sticky situation. You just really can't do anything in return, which is a little bit unfortunate. The Alpha Z1 flies at a top speed of 201.5 miles per hour, which is just slightly faster than the Nakoda, so it's a little bit better, I guess, in that regard. But man, we are getting some close calls here. Can we squeeze it through? Yes, we can. Okay, you know what, this thing is an absolute bop to fly. It's also super low profile, which means it's very hard to actually hit, you know, anything. I guess it's got a decent wingspan, but in terms of its height, it's very hard to have it snag on anything, which is pretty dang cool. So yeah, I actually think the Alpha Z1's pretty fun to mess with. And yet again, we have another stunt plane, this one being the Howard. This goes at a top speed of 204 miles per hour. It's a lot lower profile in general on the wingspan, but it's got a higher tail on the back, which means you might have to be a little careful on what you're, you're flying towards, because you might clip that tail. But again, just like the Z1, this thing is incredibly maneuverable and very fun to fly with because of that. You can see just how easily we can fly this plane around. I think planes are still one of my favorite features about Grand Theft Auto. It's just that it's got such good flying physics in this game. They're so fun to mess around with. Look at this. I mean, you can't do that in many games. Well, we were doing pretty good until we hit that building there. Oh man, unfortunate. Either way, the Howard is basically just a different version of the Alpha Z1. Both of them are very similar in their overall handling, and it just depends on which one you like the looks of better. Both of them do feature flares, and they're also very, very fun to mess around with. I just can't really recommend to buy them because they don't have any weapons on them. In the number 5 position, we have the V65 Molotov. This is one of my favorite looking jets in the game. And it goes at a top speed of 207 miles per hour, so it's got some pep in its step. I was honestly pretty disappointed when I got my hands on this vehicle, because, I don't know, I just expected more. It's not that fast when you compare it to some of the better jets, and it really doesn't feature that impressive weaponry. It has a machine gun, but it's not explosive, which is really disappointing. If this thing had an explosive MG, it would have been great. It does feature missiles, and these are spammable missiles, which is pretty nice. There's not a lot of jets that go over 200 miles per hour that feature missiles that you can spam. It also features flares, which is pretty good. Plus, it can stop very quickly due to that tail fin that pulls out there, so it is pretty nice in that capability. I do actually like the Molotov, and I think it looks amazing. It's just that there's nothing that's really unique about it that makes it stand out compared to the other jets, and when you pair that with the fact that it's one of the most expensive purchases that you can make in the air freight area, it's just, I don't know, I wouldn't recommend to buy it. But let's get into the number 4 position, being the Hydra. Now, the Hydra has been in the game for a while, probably 6 to 7 years at this point. I remember all the way back in the days of the Xbox 360, when the Hydra wasn't in the game, and there were all these videos like, oh, you can steal it from the military base, and obviously they were all lies and probably using mod menus, but I was foolish and I always kept trying to find it. And when Rockstar finally added this jet into the game, it was insane. It was just a better laser, and you could actually buy it and store it, which was the craziest part. The Hydra features an explosive machine gun, which alone is S tier. It used to be a better explosive machine gun, but it's still pretty dang good, just like the lasers, and it is actually better than the F-160 Raijus. It also is very fast. The Hydra goes 210 miles per hour, making it, I mean, one of the fastest flying things in the game. And the best part about the Hydra is that it features a hover mode. As we can see, it's got little air boosters on the side, and when you do that, it directs the jet flow underneath the Hydra, and it's very easy to maneuver. It's not as easy as the Raiju, but it's still very easy to just nuke people, especially if you want to spawn camp. So yeah, the Hydra is very, very dangerous, and it's actually a pretty good price tag. It comes in at around $3 million, which is a really good pickup for a new player, I would say. It's not like the Raiju where you're going to be spending $6 million. It's pretty fast. It's got great capabilities overall. I really like the Hydra, and I can definitely say that it's not a bad shout. I mean, it really isn't. While it doesn't have every capability the Raiju has, it still has certain areas where I like it, and in maneuverability, it's definitely a bit better. So let me know what you guys think about this jet in the comments down below. I still love the Hydra. I still think it's an absolute bop. And now we arrive at what I believe to be the best. And now we arrive at And we arrive in the number 3 position to what I believe is one of the best purchases you can make in Grand Theft Auto Online. This is the Rogue. Now, the Rogue is incredible for a couple reasons. First of all, it's cheap. It's only $1 million. $1 million for one of the fastest aircraft in the game that can fly 220 miles per hour is already insane. But it gets even better. This features an explosive machine gun. Now, it's a bit weird because it's a wing-mounted explosive MG, so shooting at things on the ground is a bit harder because your bullets aren't going to go directly where you aim, they're going to go to the side, and we can see that. Like, at distance, they go where you aim, but the closer you are to your target, the harder it is to actually shoot. But it's really good for taking out air targets because there's more of a spread, which means it's a lot easier to hit something in the air. Not only that, but it also features missiles, which is obviously really, really nice. So the Rogue has homing missiles, it has an explosive MG. It's one of the fastest flying aircraft in the game, and even better than that, it has bombs. I mean, that's kind of insane. This is the only aircraft in like the top 5 and above that features bombs, which is also crazy. And the best part about the Rogue is it's a 2-seater, so you can have somebody else hop in if you want them to. Oh yeah, and it can also survive 4 homing missiles while also featuring flares. There is not a single bad thing I can say about this plane. I mean, yes, its handling is a bit weird. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't love the handling because it's so touchy. I mean, look at how absolutely touchy it is. But I would rather have an overcompensating on the handling than under, because it's a lot easier to just get used to it than it is to just not be able to outmaneuver missiles and, you know, fly like an absolute mad lab. So I love the Rogue. I still think it's one of the best purchases you can make in the game. I would definitely recommend to pick it up for how cheap it is, and especially the ridiculous speed it has. In the number 2 position, we arrive to one of the coolest looking jets in the game, the Pyro. This can fly at a top speed of 222 miles per hour. I wonder if we can hit the Rogue with a missile. Let's try. Hoo-ah! No, that was never going to hit. But yeah, this is fast. To be fair, it's only 2 miles per hour faster than the Rogue, but the difference is this is a jet. And you'll notice the Rogue flies very slow when you're above the ground, maybe about 100 or 200 feet above, and then once you go higher up and the altitude gets thinner, the Rogue actually increases in top speed. That's something that's really cool about it. I like the Rogue better in that characteristic because it makes it easier to use at, you know, bombing runs. It makes it easier to hit people with the explosive MG, where the Pyro is just much better if you want to get from point A to point B very quickly. Now, the Pyro has a lot of homing missiles, as you can see on it, and you can spam these missiles over and over, which is something that's nice. It's one of the few jets that you can do this in. Not only that, but it does feature a machine gun. However, it's not an explosive MG. If the Pyro's MG was explosive, it would easily be S tier. Unfortunately, all it has is missiles. Thankfully, it has flares, so at least it's got that going for it, but to be honest, the first place position, which is the F-160 Raiju, kind of defeats the purpose of the Pyro at this point. Because first of all, the Raiju is faster. It goes 232 miles per hour. That is 10 miles per hour faster than the Pyro. That already is insane. But it gets even better. It features homing missiles, and it has an explosive MG. And while you can't spam the homing missiles like you can on the Pyro, it really doesn't matter, because you don't need to when you have the explosive MG. A couple hits on whatever you're, you know, dogfighting, and you'll instantly take them out. So in that regard, I just think that the Raiju is better. And while this jet does not have flares, what it does have is the ability to go into stealth mode. Stealth mode means you are completely invisible to anybody on the radar. Nobody can see you. So yeah, it's just kind of better in that regard. Like, why would I ever choose a jet that's fast when I can choose a jet that's faster, has better weaponry, and can literally go off the radar? Plus, I mean, just look at how cool this jet is. Oh, and there's one other thing that the Raiju has going for it. It can hover. And this is why it is literally one of the best purchases you can make in the game. The fact that it can hover and it has an explosive MG is kind of an overpowered combination, and you can understand that very easily just by how I easily blew up that car in front of me. And oh, this car thinks it can get away? Well, it might actually be able to, because I'm pretty bad at aiming with this. I don't use the Raiju enough to really be super dangerous with it, but still, it's kind of ridiculous on how easily you can just destroy people in front of you while using it. The Raiju is definitely one of the most important purchases you can make, but, well, it's got a downside, and that downside is the price tag of $5.1 million, and that's with the trade price unlocked. It's over $6 million if you don't have it unlocked. So Yeah, it's a really tricky decision whether or not you should purchase this. Personally, I would say the Oppressor Mark II is a better choice if you're going to spend that much money. But let me know what you guys think about today's list. What is your favorite aircraft in the game? I would definitely recommend to own some sort of aircraft because obviously getting something that's really fast is always an important purchase. But hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.